current war of words between Deputy President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga's camp seems to have rekindled the rivalry between the two politicians. The Ruto camp now wants the National Cohesion and Integration Commission take action against ODM MPs who they have accused of making defamatory remarks against the DP. And instant this morning, we take a look at this new rivalry and its impact on the Building Bridges initiative. All right, welcome back to News Center. Thank you very much for staying with us. That is our top story this morning, and it's also the basis of our interaction on Twitter. We are asking you, do you think the new rivalry between NASA leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto will derail the Building Bridges initiative? That's our Twitter poll. Do you think the renewed rivalry between NASA leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto will derail the Building Bridges initiative? That's our Twitter poll. Would like to hear your thoughts on it. I'm seeing quite a number of tweets coming through. I promise to sample them as we move along here on the show. And getting straight to more details about this rivalry, politicians allied to the Deputy President William Ruto are now demanding that the National Cohesion and Integration Commission take action against ODM MPs who they claim uttered defamatory remarks against the DP. Now, those allied to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have declared an open war against Ruto, with the focus being 2022 general elections. Just what is the genesis of the renewed political rivalry between Ruto and Raila, the former allies turned foes? Our senior political affairs reporter Chris Tyru sought to dig for answers.
Friends at one time with equal status as the inaugural principals in the famous Pentagon team of the Orange Democratic Movement hold fallout during the Grand Coalition government in the aftermath of the disputed 2007 polls. Fast forward 11 years later, and Deputy President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga are locked in what could potentially be the most bitter dispute in the aftermath of Odinga's cooperation deal with Ruto's boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Kenyans are aware of these facts. They fear Ruto, and their fear, not Raila, Odinga, or the handshake, is standing in his way to the presidency.
These are sore losers who do not believe in competitive election. Now they have simply resorted back to scare tactics. They've realized that they cannot compete with William Samoei Ruto.
Kama nyinyi ni wabunge wa NASA, kwa nini mnafanya mkutano ya kuongea maneno ya Ruto? Mfanye mkutano mseme Raila ndiye anatengeneza Kenya, si mjeni. Nini mnatoana na Ruto wapi?
But just what is the genesis of the renewed rivalry between the two leaders, viewed by most analysts as key political protagonists in the Kenyatta succession politics? Well, key Ruto handlers believe Raila has already begun his 2022 presidential campaigns to scuttle Ruto's chances of succeeding Kenyatta.
Sasa tuamini kwamba Raila yeye anaangalia pale ingine hii 2022. Ni kwa sababu anakaa kifunga wale watu wanakaa kama wataenda 2022.
William Ruto is the one who almost made Raila the president. That is the only presidency that Raila can stand today and say it was stolen from him. Anything else apart from that, he's never won anything.
But is Raila really keen on being on the 2022 presidential ballot?
It was clear that Ruto was the man for 2022. I doubt there was anybody who was going to challenge Ruto, give him any meaningful challenge. But after the handshake, this was no longer the case. And therefore, he's, if you wish, he's the biggest casualty of the handshake.
Since the handshake, Kenyatta has been conspicuously silent on the referendum debate to expand the executive, only reacting recently during a State House meeting with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, expressing objection to a likely return to campaigns. But could Ruto be silently angry at Kenyatta for bringing their joint political competitor in the political fold?
The bigger problem arises out of the fact that nobody knows what the handshake is about. The fact that Uhuru and Raila have kept it secret is not helping matters. And I think if they don't come out soon we are going to see a lot more bloodied wars.
Already there are fears that the renewed political rivalry between the deputy president and the former prime minister might just jeopardize the handshake and the benefits that it came with, even before the 14-man committee officially starts the building bridges process. A week ago, the 14-member committee held a retreat in Naivasha to familiarize members with the agenda and mandate, as well as set the ground rules with timely updates expected from President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. Chris Dairu, KTN News.
All right, so that is going to form the basis of our conversation in a few seconds. But also remember, like I mentioned, we are having the same interaction online with you. We are asking you on our Twitter handle, do you think the renewed rivalry between NASA leader Raila Odinga and the Deputy President William Ruto could actually jeopardize the building bridges initiative? That's our Twitter poll. We'd like to hear your thoughts. KTN News Center is our hashtag, or you can also choose to tweet me at Betty M. Kialo. So let's get straight to our discussion this morning. Joining me, like I mentioned earlier, is Nelson Koech, who is the Member of Parliament for Belgut. But also shortly, we're expecting to hear from Cleophas Malala, who's the Kakamega Senator. He's going to be joining us from Mombasa in a few moments. Thank you, sir, for joining us on News Center this morning.
Thank you, Betty. For
All right, so we've seen you speaking on that clip there, but I'd just like for you to highlight to our viewers, where is this rivalry coming from? All of a sudden, seems like Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto are complete enemies.
First, I must dispel the notion that people think there is any rivalry between William Samoei Ruto and Raila Odinga. They are not equal in any way. William Ruto is the Deputy President of this country.
Right.
Raila Odinga is a leader of an opposition party. So the rivalry that is just coming in between is being advanced by people who also at the same time are holding on the Raila at ransom because they want him to still contest in 2022. So the position now for him to strategically place himself on the quest for 2022, there has to be division. It has to be created that, William Ruto and probably the president are now in some uncomfortable terms, which is not the truth.
All right, but we've seen the deputy president as late as Sunday, saying some words to Raila Odinga. He's called Raila Odinga an insincere dictator. Some words have been thrown still from Ruto to Raila Odinga.
Raila Odinga's body language is that of insincerity. Number one, Raila Odinga is going to be a presidential candidate in 2022. He's just used...
Even though he's not, he said he won't be.
Look at his troops. Look at how he's accelerating his activities. Anyone who is going to retire, you don't accelerate your activity. Raila Odinga now is in every function. He's even outside the country now speaking about how his election was stolen. That is not someone who's going to retire. Look at the pressers that were issued by his ODM wing of the coalition the other day. People who don't live in Rift Valley, they want to claim that there's animosity in Rift Valley that is not there. This is geared towards 2022. So politics is just starting. Scare tactics are now being used. What was used pre-2013? You remember before 2013, there was this notion, that the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus cannot work together.
Yeah.
We defied that, and we went ahead and voted in. We united the TNA and URP and moved on. But you see, now they want to come in with the same narrative that, this is where we are heading. And very unfortunate narrative. It is all because of politics of 2022. Of 2022. Nothing else.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on, of course, on Monday, and a section of members alleged to Raila Odinga came out and, gave a almost scathing attack against the deputy president. What are your thoughts on that? When I hear that, some MPs from Jubilee want to actually accelerate this and take it to the NCIC, and, because, they say that these were defamatory remarks against the DP.
I did say yesterday that, this was defamatory, insightful, and, this is criminal. You cannot just, first of all, the people who are in the presser don't even live in Rift Valley. We've lived with communities. I come from Rift Valley. We've lived with any other community in Rift Valley. We encourage people to come and invest in Rift Valley. And then you find a leader who comes out in broad daylight, issue a presser that, William Ruto, he's holding communities that are living in Rift Valley at ransom. That is extremely unfortunate statement. That should not come from a leader. And I did say yesterday, if that does not border on insightful remarks, NCIC should come in, let them write a statement, because that was an unfortunate remark from leaders. Honestly, let me say this. The handshake, Raila and his team said that we needed the handshake to unite the country. On the other hand, his troops are issuing a presser to allege of this unfortunate remarks of what probably could be that is alleged to be happening in Rift Valley from his building. I mean, do you want to tell me this handshake is going to go anywhere? There's already, I mean, you can already see that it's unfortunate. There are cracks. He's sending his troops to issue statement. On the other side, he's also trying to, look like he's a neutral person, and he wants the country to unite together. The 14 team has not even come out with a report. And already you have fire being shot.
Right.
It is unfortunate.
But don't you think that the same fire is also being shot from your quarters? Because we've also seen members of parliament and leaders, allied to Deputy President William Ruto coming out and also giving some, some remarks, that would seem fiery, like you mentioned, to the other camp.
We have never had any issue with Honorable Raila Odinga uniting. I mean, sitting with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, shaking hands for the unity of this country.
Right.
That one, and that handshake ended in Arambe Avenue. Anything outside that, they want now to say, from the handshake, we can change we can go for a referendum. From that handshake, I don't know, we want to create positions for who. From that handshake, we want to do this. That was not part of the agreement. It was solely, purposely, to unite the country and move on. That is all we needed. And there is no animosity whatsoever between Honorable Raila Odinga and William Ruto. The only thing that we were saying is that Honorable Raila Odinga should have been a gentleman enough to come out and be ready to contest in 2022 than hiding on handshake now to advance his position for 2022.
So that's what you think the handshake was all about?
Initially, of course, the handshake is a good thing. Initially, it was, that is what we were meant to believe.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it is now indicating that it is going to be for a contest of 2022. It is very clear. And I'll tell you, Betty, for free.
Yeah.
And even if you saw at that presser, there is a narrative. The losers who always come out and they realize that they cannot compete on the same platform on a fair contest with William Samoei Ruto. Now, you must come up with something to mudsling him and, make him look and presentable to the nation when he goes for an election. If you asked me about that statement that was issued yesterday, is it not almost looking like you're setting up someone for an ICC again? What was that statement? All
right. I want us to go back to something that you also mentioned about the Building Bridges initiative. So with all this, war of words between, the two camps, I'll call them the two camps. Do you think that, this handshake then will be like doing Kenyans a disservice? Because on one hand, we're telling Kenyans, all right, it's time to move on, it's time to reconcile. But on the other hand, two towering figures, that is Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto, and their camps are engaging in this back and forth and the war of words.
Look, Jubilee, to be very honest, we have never, in fact, the principle of Jubilee, the party itself, was to unite the nation. And that is why the Jubilee is a composition of all parties that was collapsed to form Jubilee Party. This process of uniting the nation was started way back by TNA and URP joining together before 2013, and subsequently collapsing all these parties to form Jubilee Party. Now, which is what we wanted as a nation.
But wasn't that a political vehicle?
It was a political vehicle, but in the process, we were uniting the nation to come all together, bringing all the tribes, all the parties, all the tribal parties together and form a formidable party. So we started that. Look at what happened. It is not Jubilee that started the issues that we had past 2017. You have someone who refused to go for an election, to go for a rerun of an election, that yet he went to court himself. So all these problems that we had came from NASA. We did not have these problems. And let me tell you, as a country, we've lived in peace. We continue to live in peace. It is only when we get to election and then this narrative is advanced of tribal politics. And then all of a sudden, when you lose an election, you come out and say, oh, because there are people in this country who don't believe they lose elections. When they lose elections, they go back and play the tribal card. And that is where we get. So we got ourselves in trouble because of the tribal card. People run to their community and say, block the roads, burn the tires. And in the process, lives are lost, property is destroyed. And then now, with this handshake, we expected now that, let's move ahead as a country.
And
that one we embraced, we accepted it. only to realize that Raila Odinga is unleashing another card of 2022. Honestly, will you sit back? It is not a sincere handshake. Look at, and I say, the 14-team committee is still has not even come up with their report. But now, all of a sudden, his side of the coalition, they go and issue a presser again to say William Ruto is holding communities in Rift Valley at ransom.
All right. Do you think the Deputy President, William Ruto, is getting cold feet with this newfound friendship between the President and Raila Odinga?
Why will he get cold feet? Let's be very honest. For what reason? First of all, you know your competitor, that it is Honorable Raila Odinga. William Ruto knows that, you know, he has support across the country. All we wanted to do is that he should have come out sincerely than hiding in the handshake business to come out as a candidate. We know our competitor, and William Ruto has been in politics for very long. I'm sure he's not sitting pretty waiting for him to be given a position. I also know he's not going to come out nagging if he loses an election. So we're fully prepared, knowing that we're going to contest against Honorable Raila Odinga. We are not jittery about anything, and I'm sure he's not jittery about anything. We are proceeding to 2022. So watu ni kujipanga.
Watu ni kujipanga.
Yes.
All right, so shortly also we'll be getting to hear from Cleophas Malala, who's the Kakamega senator, just to hear, of course, what his side, of course, thinks about this whole conversation. And remember also, we're having the same conversation on Twitter. We're asking you if you think the renewed rivalry between NASA leader Raila Odinga and the Deputy President William Ruto will, of course, have an impact on the Building Bridges initiative. My guest, Nelson Koech, who's the Member of Parliament for Belgood, says there is actually no rivalry. And I'd like to get back to that there's no rivalry. So what do you call this? And also, what is the place of the Deputy President William Ruto in this Building Bridges initiative?
He's extremely supporting it. He tweeted immediately after the handshake. Deputy President came out very strongly to say, I support, let us move together as a nation, let us build bridges, let us, that is what
But going back to the actions and the words and the actions after the tweets and after that, that time that, that handshake took place?
He's still fine with it. We're moving on with it. He's running across the country, uniting the nation, following coup of what is leader. And people, the president and the deputy president are an item. Anything that the president speaks and says is what the deputy president speaks. Look at the narrative of a referendum where people were ready and, people thought that the president was supporting going for a referendum. He came out very openly to defy it. So every position that is taken by the deputy president is a position of the president. He doesn't speak on his own. He consults it both, and when he comes out, he speaks as a president. So if the president is agreeable and is agreeing on the handshake to move on, the deputy president has no option. He has to.
All right, let's just talk about that conversation to do with referendum. If indeed the deputy president, and he's come out to say that he's indeed confident that come 2022 he'll be able to floor any other candidates or rivals that he will have at that time. But he seems to have a serious problem with the constitutional referendum that is being proposed, all these proposals. Yet, critics are saying that this could be the way, that this country will have elections and not, get back at each other, not kill each other, and not have, just one center of power that everybody wants moving forward. I think,
Betty, what people are misunderstanding, I think there's a misunderstanding. Deputy President is not against referendum.
Right.
He's simply saying he also knows that there are sections in this constitution that he's uncomfortable with. But what he's saying is that it is time now to work for this country. We've run an election that almost went for a year. It has costed this country huge amounts of money. He's saying, let us sit down now and work for the people. There are people who have elected us. We have extremely huge challenges in this country. You've just run, we have farmers in a lot who have not been paid. We have corruption running high in this country. And there's a lot. Look at the roads, look at the floods, look at the Big Four agenda that must be, executed in this term, legacy of the president. When will we ever sit down as a nation and focus on development and focus on Mwananchi? Must it always be someone? And he's also refusing the fact that this constitution, any changes that is to be made, and he said it yesterday in Mombasa, should be something to do with the common Mwananchi. It should not be about creating positions for some few individuals. And to me, it looked like, there's this that I said before, so are losers who don't believe in losing elections. Now they've realized it's not their match in 2022. Let us create positions just in case Deputy President wins, we have somewhere to land. So that is why you have the story of, the prime minister, and then you have 2 deputies, and some, many 3 tier in
the country.
regional
regional
offices.
Yes.
It is unfair to the common mwananchi.
Right.
I agree with the deputy president. Let's sit back as a country. Let's look at the big 4 agenda that the president wants us to deliver, and let's focus on that, at least for now.
But apart from the development agenda, which is very important, and many Kenyans indeed are saying, okay, let's first forget about all this, agitation for, the referendum. But at the same time, apart from that development agenda, is he comfortable? And what is his take about these proposals that are being, fronted? Is he comfortable with those proposals?
The deputy president, what are we talking about in this referendum? What do you want to change? And then we must say, what has this constitution that we have at the moment benefited the common mwananchi? I think that is his position. I don't speak for the deputy president, but I look at his body language, and that is exactly what he's saying. What have we offended in this constitution? What was wrong in this constitution? The same people who are saying to petition Katiba are now the ones who have taken a backstage and say, no, this constitution is not so good, let us change now. This country cannot perpetually be politicking. At some point, we must say, let's stop and let's now work.
All right. Finally, before I let you go, there's also a conversation about limiting the age. There's somebody who's looking to have that brought into the floor of the House. What is your take on this one? Because the opposition MPs are saying, okay, so this is another way to threaten Raila Odinga's bid in case he decides to, to go for the presidency come 2022.
I have not looked at Honorable Mahmoud's bill to know the merits, but I will say this. I will honestly, so that no one looks like they are being defranchised, and we want Honorable William Samoei Ruto to compete on the same platform with his competitors without being knocked off on technicalities. At the same time, I ask myself, if you're above 70, what do you want, again, in government? What is it that you want to bring that you've not done all along in your life? You can make changes, different, huge, massive changes from where you're sitting as an individual. You don't have to be anything in society for you to make changes in your society. You can make it. So for instance, Honorable Raila Odinga has tried. He's tried 4 times to contest and lost. It's high time now he calls it quits. For how long will we want?
So do you think it's targeted at Raila Odinga?
I don't know. Anyone who is above 70, it is greed if you're coming to contest for presidency. What do you still want to change? We have young blood. We have people who have proved that they are capable of delivering. I speak from a young person's perspective. I wouldn't want anyone 70s and still running up and down trying to change this country. If you've not done it now, you will never do it in the next 10 years. So anyone, when the bill comes, I will look at it. But for now, I will say, if you're above 70, for me, it is unfair for you to still hold into public office, retire. Let your input still be used in the country as an advisor or any other position that you can take in the country. Encourage the young people to come and contest for presidency. We move forward with a young team, energetic team that can pump in new blood into the governance of this nation. All
right, finally, if Raila Odinga was not even going to be in that race, there's not even a hint of him being in that race, do you think we'd have had this conversation about an age limit?
Absolutely, it has come. This is not the first time it is coming. Okay. And no one is scared. Let me tell you, for Jubilee and even William Ruto today, if Raila Odinga is contesting, I can tell you for free, we are catwalking to State House. There is no shortcut about that. And that is exactly what we want. He should come forward and say, I'm contesting, na tuanze kujipanga. He is not a threat anymore.
All right, thank you very much. You'll have to stop it at that. Thank you very much for your time. Nelson Koech is the Member of Parliament for Belgood. And hopefully, in the next hour, we'll get to hear from Cleophas Malala, who will be joining us from Mombasa. We'll get to hear his side of the argument about this renewed rivalry, quote-unquote, between the Deputy President and the former Prime Minister. Thanks for your time. All right, so for now, we want to also just get to hear what's happening in business, and I now want to bring in Thandiwe. How are you?
Good morning, Betsy.
Good morning. We've had a politically charged hour,
yes,
so we need, of course, to know what's also happening in business.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so what do we have? What are we looking at today?
It's quite the chilly morning, but things are going to be heating up on the business desk later on in the day. And what's going to start us off in the morning is going to be a meeting between the Kenya Bureau of Standards and the KRA, and they're going to be discussing issues when it comes to imports and consolidated imports. And if you remember, in 2012, there was an act that came into play that requires consolidated importers to have their goods all verified.
Verified, yes.
Yes.
All
yes.
right. So this is happening here in Nairobi?
Yes, it's happening in Nairobi today.
All right. So that's the KEBS and KRA Consultative Forum. Then, of course, we have the next topic over there, which, of course, our business team is going to be looking at.
All right, the EAC and LAPSET meeting. Now, this is going to be another forum where there's going to be deliberations between the EAC and LAPSET. And if you'll remember that LAPSET is going to entail very many different types of infrastructure projects. It's the biggest and most ambitious project in Eastern Africa. And we're going to have about 32 birth ports in Lamu, and it's going to be a huge project. So they're going to be discussing deliberations on that.
All right. And of course, that's a conversation, a very big one that has been happening in the country for some time now. LAPSET and, of course, the EAC. And then also we have a final topic, which is, of course, the national, human resource. And actually, we were talking about this earlier. The National Human Resource Congress.
Yes.
So what's this all about?
Well, basically, players from the human resource industry are going to be coming together. This is happening in Mombasa, and our very own director, Dr. Juliet Kipngetich, is going to be there as one of the speakers. And if you'll remember, in 2012, there was an act that was passed that HR must be recognized as one of the professions as all the others. And so it's going to be kind of checking if this is working, if people are being verified, if people are doing the right thing in HR.
Interesting. So before it was not considered as a...
No, it wasn't, but it was passed into law that it is now one of the professions. Like any other. Yes.
Like any other.
Yes.
It's so interesting that the person who, the HR, the person who employs you, that they're still not, it's not clear whether it is a profession or not.
Yes.
So they'll be having that.
Yes, and that's one of the ways that they're going to be able to rule out who is actually qualified for the job that they're doing and who is not.
And who's not.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else?
No, that's all we have for today, but please catch us on Business Today.
All right, so of course, like she mentioned, you can check out our shows later in the day. That's Business Today. We'll be having all those details of all those stories here on KTN News. All right, thanks, Tandiwe. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Betty.
All right, so we'll take a short commercial break right now here on the show, but we're coming back to continue with our coverage. And remember, we're also just getting more and more tweets from you. I'll sample them at the top of the hour when we come back, just asking you about that renewed rivalry between the Deputy President and Raila Odinga. That's the focus of our conversation and our coverage today. Some politics. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Keep your tweets coming. And of course, from me here for this hour, we take a short commercial break. We're coming back in a few minutes. Don't go away.